Matt, how are you?
Oh, good. That makes me sound old. Senior draft analyst. Man, I've only been doing this 10 years.
No,
Come
the
on.
key word is experience.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
The best draft
How about
analyst. at Bleacher.
tenured?
There we go.
Tenured.
I don't know if that's
Like-
better or not. But no, I appreciate you guys having me on. We do this every year. So It's
Absolutely.
good to see you again.
Well, we'd love to have you on. You always bring great information. Let's start with last night first. You're great at hearing what's going on late at night and around with teams. What was the reaction to what we saw on the field last night from the wide receiver, quarterback, and tight end class?
I've never seen a guy run a 4.27 and people be disappointed before, but that's what happened with Henry Ruggs. It's like he ran a 4.27. He almost ran a tenth of a second faster than the next wide receiver, and people are like, "That's it." So I feel like we're a little spoiled, thinking that.
A little bit.
And he comes in to run that time is phenomenal. And he had a great all-around workout. Jumped well. I was a little surprised by his 3-cone, but I think with the receiver class, that they were as good as advertised. We've talked so long about this is a historic wide receiver class. The guys who worked out lived up to that. And Chase Claypool, my goodness, what a show he put on it. Monday, I was driving in and scouts were calling me, telling me, hey, he's going to work out at tight end. He's 238 pounds. We think he could be a tight end. He comes out and runs a 4.4. If he's a tight end at running 4.4, he's your guy. He's Evan Ingram. So I think that's what's great about Chase is versatility now.
This is the conversation we were just having. We were talking about Claypool, and I said his measurements and times is almost identical to what Evan Ingram did. Now, he did not run the 3-cone. I wish I would have seen a 3-cone time out of him to see how well he can move
He's
side
smart,
to side.
I think. He's like, you know what, I ran that 40, I did the bench, and I'm out of here. I'll save that for South Bend.
Yes, exactly. You know what? Because remember DK Metcalf, who also maybe a little even bigger than this guy, but people loved all the early stuff. Then they saw the 3-cone. They're like, oh, no, see.
That 3-cone was, I will say, I'm a big 3-cone guy. And
Yeah,
that
so am
3-cone
I.
was it was bad.
No, it was like
really
Tom
bad.
Brady bad.
And so I think exactly. And when you have a guy who's big and a little stiff and then you don't see the change of direction and the burst, that gives you pause. And I think, with DK, it's not a Seahawks podcast. We don't want to get into this. But, he got so much better over the course of the season. And I think they did a great job of unlocking his athleticism and teaching him to run more routes, developing him over the course of the season. I think Chase Claypool's a guy who's going to be similar to that.
Now, whether or not it's justified, and I think we could sit here all day and say that it's not, there are a bunch of people who will look at those times, specifically the 40s last night, never mind all the other tests that they put in, even the new ones.
Yep.
And this is going to be the one number that either moves a guy up or moves a guy down. So could you give us maybe 2 or 3 guys that helped themselves besides Claypool and 2 or 3 guys that may have hurt themselves?
I thought Denzel Mims from Baylor really helped himself. He's a big wide receiver in a class that doesn't have a lot of those. Mm-hmm. And we saw it at the Senior Bowl. He's a good wide receiver. You saw it on tape at Baylor. He's a good player. And then to come here and back it up with the athletic testing, I thought was really impressive. Mims, to me, is a guy who's in a normal class would be a second-round pick. This class is so deep, he might get pushed down a little bit.
Even after this testing yesterday?
This might help a little bit. But, there's still like – how many receivers can get drafted in the first round? Like 7?
We had this conversation with Dane Brugler. He goes, look, I almost have 30 top 3-round wide receivers.
And 35 usually get drafted.
Right.
That's a high number. So it makes it tough. Denzel Mims did great. I really thought that Devin Duvernay from Texas showed off. He showed off the speed that is there on tape, but people were forgetting about a guy who dropped 1 pass in college football, exceptional hands in the slot. So I thought he did really well. Justin Jefferson running a 4.44. I did not see that coming out of him. Thought he had a good day. On the other side of it, and this is where, with my job, a guy runs poorly, and you want to go back and see, okay, well, where was that on tape? Quintez Cephas from Wisconsin, incredibly physical player. He had a great bowl game for Wisconsin. Running a 4.74, that's going to be a problem. That's almost a fail level 40 time for wide receiver. So regardless of how good your tape was, that's going to be an issue. Jalen Reagor from TCU had so much hype coming in. Oh, he's going to run a 4.2. He's going to push for Henry Ruggs. I think he even said it. And so it's interesting that a guy runs a high 4.4 and that's considered a disappointment. Mm-hmm. But when the expectation was at least in the 4.3s, and then to see he didn't jump well, he didn't run a great 3-cone.
Nope.
I think he just bulked up. He got a little too big because he came in at 204, and we were 5'10", 204. Where'd this come from? Looks like that might have been a mistake to do that.
All right, let's take a look at some of the other position groups, Matt. We've asked every draft analyst we've had on this question, and we've gotten different answers from everybody. So we're going to ask you now and see where you go with it. Top 4 offensive tackles in the class, or maybe your top is bigger or smaller than 4. How do you differentiate those guys? Which guy do you like the best and why?
Yeah, it's a good class. I have 5 guys in the first round. It's a good class. It really is. I think Jedrick Wills from Alabama is the best. For me, it just comes down to, with offensive tackles, I think where we've all missed in the past is betting on potential and not just looking at guys who do the job well. Laramie Tunsil and Ronnie Stanley, both all-pro caliber, first-round picks, and they're the same guys that were coming out. There was no we got to fix this, we got to fix that. They are who they are. And
Which
with
is
Wills,
hard to do in the NFL now, by
it
the
is
way.
very hard to do. And with Wills, like I feel like right now he could come from Alabama, he could play left tackle for the New York Giants and be a really good one. Like you know exactly what you're getting. With the other guys, Tristan Wirfs, right tackle for Iowa. I love how violent he plays, the way he gets to the second level. He's patient in the pass game. I love that about him. After that, I think you get into some guys with some question marks. Andrew Thomas, 3-year starter in the SEC. You got to be pretty good to do that. And I think the measurements were good for him. I still feel like at times he's a little slow to react. I think you saw that against LSU this year. And then you have Mekhi Becton, who is just, you don't see guys like that. I think it's Bill Simmons in The Ringer. They have the planet theory. There aren't very many people on the planet who look and move like that. And that's Mekhi Becton. To be 6'7", 364 pounds, and he's going to run exceptionally well today as well. There aren't many guys like that. But with him, I do have the concerns like we have with Greg Robinson where, okay, he's dominant when he gets hands on you, but if he doesn't get hands on you, what is he doing? He's standing there watching the play a lot. So I think with Becton, there's tremendous upside, but he's coming in a little bit lower in terms of technique. He's training with my good friend Duke Manyweather. Duke, I think, is the best of the independent O-line experts in the country. He's going to get him right. And then I like Josh Jones. Watching him at the Senior Bowl, we're sitting up in the suite watching. I said, man, that's Andre Dillard all over again. And Andre Dillard went to the Eagles in the first round. They're built very similarly. They move very similarly. They each have struggles in the run game. I think if you could have a doppelganger as a prospect, that's his.
Wow, that's an interesting call. I got a quarterback question for you. Now, I know the Giants.
You guys took one last year. Come on.
No, but this is important now.
Yeah.
Because Justin Herbert had a terrific workout last night. He happens to be my favorite quarterback in this class, besides, obviously, Burrow's going to go number one. So, first I want to ask you about Herbert. Where does he fall on your pecking order? Obviously, Tua is getting all the hype, but he's got a lot of injury history, and GMs sometimes shy away from that, although they're probably not going to do this time. And then the other one is, where did Burrow come from? We haven't asked this of one of our people all week. This was a guy who was just a guy until this year, and now all of a sudden he owns the planet.
Yeah, let's start with Burrow. I'm a Texas fan, unfortunately, and this is where it happened. 3rd and 17 in Austin, Texas, with 110,000 people in burnt orange screaming at you, and the pocket got incredibly muddy. Texas got a great push with 2 sophomores at corner who we thought were going to be All-Americans, and Joe Burrow said, you guys aren't back. And he stepped up in the pocket. He gets hit. He throws 3rd and 17 bullet in the end zone to beat Texas. And I looked to my co-host and I said, that MFer's going in the first round, boys. And that's where it started, because you go back to last year in the bowl game. UCF hits Joe under the helmet, illegal hit. It looks like he gets knocked out. And everybody, he's coming out. He got up, dusted himself off, and played the game of his life at that point. So Joe's just one of those guys. The harder he gets hit, the tougher the defense is, the better he plays. I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback like that. Baker Mayfield has a little of that, or had a little of that in him in Oklahoma. So I think for Joe, it's some of that, the chip on his shoulder, the toughness. 2018, he was just a guy. I've talked to him about this, and he said, I came in late. I was a transfer, and I was hurt. So by the time I got out there and learned the offense and got chemistry with our guys, it was late in the season. Mm-hmm. And that might sound like an excuse, but I actually buy that. And so then this year, we see them go, you're putting 4 receivers out into the formation, letting him play point guard, basically. And I think that helped open things up. The emergence of Clyde Edwards-Helaire gives him a safety valve out of the backfield. Thaddeus Moss gives him someone over the middle. And when you have Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, you can actually challenge defenses. So I think with Burrow, the talent was always there. It was just a little bit hidden. But, he does deserve some credit for getting better, for doing the work to learn Joe Brady's offense and to be able to go to Joe Brady and say, hey, I think Daniel Jeremiah had a great point about this. It's like they didn't need 7-man protection anymore. They didn't need 6-man protection because Joe can move around in the pocket. He can take hits. He's a tough, athletic kid. To your point about Justin Herbert, I like Justin. I think Senior Bowl and Combine couldn't have been better for him. They've been exceptional. Mm-hmm. The questions I have come with, does he get to second and third progression well enough? And at Oregon, I think I love Mario Cristobal. I don't want him to get upset about this, but at Oregon, I feel like Justin was a little limited in what he was able to do offensively. We're just talking about Burrow. They opened the floodgates up for this guy. At Oregon, it was, don't run. Like, stay in the pocket. Right. We have this great offensive line. You stay in the pocket.
Until he got to the Rose Bowl.
And then the Rose Bowl, and he's moving all over the place and making throws. And this Senior Bowl, he's moving all over the place. So I think with Justin, it's a little bit of a projection, because he's going to be asked to do things in the NFL most likely that he wasn't asked to do in college. Get to that third read. Move around in the pocket. Move off your spot. Use that arm strength. So I like him as well. I want to give him a lot of credit, because a year ago we would have talked about him and I would have told you guys people up there say he's kind of weird. He's not a great leader. He's kind of an odd dude. He's never left Eugene, Oregon. Played high school football there, played college football there. Now you see him that he's really taken it upon himself to kind of grow into that role of being a quarterback, being a franchise leader. And I think as much as we talk about guys get better on the field, you got to get better off the field sometimes too, and Justin Herbert did a great job of that.
How do you see that potential trademark if the Giants do decide to trade back with interest for Tua, for Herbert, maybe Jordan Love? I heard people like him
right?
too. Lions at 3, Giants at 4. What team might want to move up? How do you see that whole scenario playing out next couple of months?
If Dave Gettleman trades a first-round pick, I'm buying shots because we got to celebrate if that actually happens. So I'll be in New York. I'll be in Midtown doing the draft. So you guys swing over. We'll make that happen. No, I think the trade market will be there. And all this talk about quarterbacks is so good for you guys because even if let's say Detroit wants to trade out of 3 and Miami comes up and takes Tua, the Chargers might still want to come up to 4. Panthers might want to come up to 4. Colts, Raiders, Patriots, who knows? I mean, it's just the Wild West right now when it comes to this quarterback market because we don't know what's going to happen with free agency. There's 7 starting quarterbacks who are going to be free agents. Where they end up and how those teams view that potential. There's nothing that says the New Orleans Saints might not want to draft a quarterback to sit behind Drew Brees for a year. Taysom Hill's 30. He's had 2 knee injuries, and he's thrown 13 passes. Might be a good idea to draft somebody, So I think you guys are in a great spot to either get a very good player, a Jeff Okudah, a Jedrick Wills, Isaiah Simmons, or to trade back a couple. If you trade back to 6, you're still getting one of those guys, right?
How far back would you be willing to go?
6. That would be about as far as I would go. Because,
okay.
If 3 quarterbacks go in the top 5, let's say Burrow's gone, Chase Young's gone, Tua's gone, someone else trades up to get Justin Herbert.
Right.
Then I guess Jeff Okudah's still there. He's one of the best corner prospects I've ever seen. Or Isaiah Simmons, who I don't care what position he plays. He's just a freak. He's a utility knife on defense. Or the top offensive tackle would still be there. So, and you're probably going to get a second-round pick for it. So I think I would trade back to 6, maybe even 7, because again, if it's 4 quarterbacks, going early, that's just going to continue to push good players down. So I think Dave is in a good spot to where they can read my mock drafts and see how the board will fall, and maybe they can move back.
Let me ask you about the corners for just a minute because they were here today. We got an opportunity to talk to these guys. In my mind, I look at the Giants' corners, and I'm going to assume for a second that Okudah's not going to be their pick wherever they are in the first round, even if they deal. Is there a quality group of slot corners that they could potentially get as they go down into the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th rounds? Because, quite frankly, that's probably a position they're going to be looking at.
Oddly enough, this year, all the Tier 2 corners are big guys. They're all 6'1",
and
200
that's why
pounds.
I'm asking you.
And they're more, let's play press man, so they're more outside guys. I think Jeff Gladney from TCU would be an interesting option. He's about 5'10" and change. Incredibly physical at the line of scrimmage. I think if you talk to a Big 10 receiver, or Big 12, they'll say Jeff Gladney's the toughest guy I've faced. So I think he could play inside. Christian Fulton at LSU, I think, could also play inside. I think there's a little bit of a speed question there with him, so I think Fulton could get kicked inside. He's definitely smart enough to handle that job.
Interesting.
After that, you start to get into some of these nickel guys. Antoine Winfield Jr., could you put him in a nickel and play a Tyrann Mathieu or Quandre Diggs role? I think you could do it. Brandon Jones from Texas, not to just keep shouting out my team, but a kid who's not working out because he had a little bit of an injury. He actually played 80% of his snaps his senior year in nickel, in man coverage, and he came to Texas as a safety. So showing off his versatility at 6 foot, 195 pounds, I think that's the kind of player you can draft and say, okay, you're gonna do a little bit of everything, because that's good secondaries now. You almost need that. Minka Fitzpatrick or Tyrann Mathieu that can move around. Jimmy Ward does it for the Niners. Guys that can be everywhere.
Where do you view Arnett, the other Ohio State corner?
I like him in the slot. I think, again, a little bit of speed deficiency is going to be the question. I'm very anxious to see him move, not just run the 40, to see what that quickness is like. Ohio State bumped him all over, and he was the 3rd corner as a senior, which I think, it's testament. He's a good player. He's probably going to be a 2nd or 3rd round pick, but I do worry a little bit about him. Also, when you have that defense around you, I think the job of playing nickel or slot is a little easier. Sean Wade went back to Ohio State. He would have been a first-round pick at corner, and he'll probably be the 2nd corner drafted next year. So that defense with Chase Young giving quarterbacks about 2 seconds to throw the ball makes your job back there a little easier.
I'm not sure if this is how Dave Gettleman thinks about it, but we're here having fun, so let's think about it this way. You mentioned the options at 4. It's the same guys we've talked about all week.
Yeah.
Okudah, Simmons, offensive tackle, right? Those are the 3 guys you're going to be looking at 4. When you look ahead The Giants don't have their own third-round pick. They have a comp pick. So I don't think we can figure out who's going to be there at 100.
No.
But we can try to figure out who might be there at 36 and 37, right, when they go in the second round. When you look at where the depth of this class is, what type of positional value are you going to see around 36? Can you find a Kenneth Murray as an off-ball linebacker there? You know, if you don't get that guy in one, who can you find in two?
Well, wide receivers are going to be there at the top round too. I don't think
Right.
Kenneth Murray's going to be there. I think he's going to test exceptionally well.
Yep.
He's smart, high character, very productive. He's going to go pretty early in the draft. Top 20 would be my guess. So I think when you come back around, like you said, 36 or 37, that's where your receiver depth is going to be. You know, someone like Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State could be there. Laviska Shenault could be there. KJ Hamler could be there. So the receiver depth is really good. The first tight end might come off the board. I know it's not a huge need for you guys, but the tight end run is probably going to start around there.
How about on defense?
Well, on defense, it's not great, just to be quite honest. It's not a good defense here.
Thanks,
it really
Matt.
isn't. And again, for the corners, like, yeah, if you want a 6'1", 200-pound Cameron Dantzler,
Right.
Christian Fulton, guys like that. But, yeah, if you want an edge rusher, just get one for agency, actually. If you want an edge rusher, just sign one this year.
How about off-ball linebacker? Are you going to struggle in that
Yes,
area?
a little bit. Jordan Brooks from Texas Tech is interesting. Zach Bond from Wisconsin, who actually played a lot of edge rusher for them, is someone who's kind of transitioning to that off-ball spot. Malik Harrison, to me, is more like an old-school thumper coming out of Ohio
Agreed.
State.
Yep.
He's been more of a true Mike linebacker. So I think if you're looking to fill that will spot, maybe Jordan Brooks, maybe Zach Bond, but there aren't a ton of linebackers in this class. You might be better off waiting until pick 100, going after an Akeem Davis-Gaither, going after a Logan Wilson, someone like that. Troy Dye from Oregon.
Sticking with the defensive front, how do you view Julian Okwara?
Man, there's potential there. It's funny because if you could combine Julian and Kareem, their two edge rushers at Notre Dame, you'd have a perfect end. Because Khalid Kareem was so technically proficient and so strong, and Okwara, I even talked to Brian Kelly about this. Like they know he's getting by on speed right now. And, you know, he's a little banged up, so getting him healthy and then just teaching him to convert that speed to power, I mean, yeah, he could be special, and I think he can have a role right away. But I do feel like he's going to have to get a little bit stronger to be able to play all three downs.
Who's a guy that you really like in this class that maybe not enough people are talking about?
That's such a hard question.
I know
when
it
you
is,
cover the
sorry.
draft every day, like year-round, people are always like, who's your sleeper? I was like, well, do you mean like for the general public or like for draft fans, you know, like diehard draft
Well, how
fans?
about this? Where do you think there's some differential where you look at consensus and you're like, I think that consensus is nonsense, either good or bad?
Do you want to know that? I swear to God on this is absolute truth. You can check my internet history. I don't read other people's work. Like I love Daniel Jeremiah, good friend of mine. I don't read his stuff because I don't want to pollute it. I don't want to, you know, I respect him and I don't want to be like, oh, DJ has Jonathan Taylor at this pick, and I
think
start
that's
to get in
smart.
there. Same with Todd McShay. Love Todd, and he's been so good to me. I don't read his work because I don't want it messing with my work, you know,
Okay, so
and
how about-
influencing my opinion. So
How about compared to maybe what you're hearing from NFL scouts and executives?
yeah,
this week?
I'm very low on Grant Delpit, and I think a lot of people still say, oh, you know, he's going to go first round. Guys who are that athletic go first round. And I'll turn around and say guys who are that athletic should have made plays this year.
And should not miss as many tackles
Right,
as he
and
does.
like let's see, a little bit of effort goes a long way for me, and it just wasn't there for him. So I'm not very high on Grant Delpit. I'm not very high on the quarterbacks outside of Joe Burrow, even with Tua. Tua scares me because of the injuries.
Has
So
to.
I think on the quarterbacks, I'm a little more conservative. You know, like you said, there's buzz like, oh, Jordan Love's going to go top 5, and you know what? I hope he does. I'll be happy for Jordan Love if he goes top 5. That's crazy to me, but it's a quarterback world. You know, if you don't have one, you do some wild things to get them. So I think that's usually where I'm a little different. I know on wide receivers because I see it on Twitter. You know, people will say like, why are you so low on Jalen Reagor? I'm like, well, because he's small and he drops a lot of passes. So that's why I'm low on him. Or why are you low on Donovan Peoples-Jones? I don't think I am. Like, I think I have 50 overall. That's pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
he's at 500 players. And
Yeah,
you're,
that
you're
is
in the
pretty
top,
good,
top
actually, yeah.
10%. So that's what, you know, that does make that question hard to answer because what might seem low to me, you know, is high to other people and things
Sure.
like that.
Matt, go ahead, Phil. Finish
No,
up.
no, that's all right. Let him go. I know he's busy.
Hey Giants fans, Saquon Barkley here. You want to see more videos? Subscribe below.